A brand new Mishnah, boys, Geschmack Suga, Daf Yud Aleph, Amid Aleph, Hidle Ale Es Hagefen. Are we ready? We started already? Good. The Mishnah says that if you stretch over the sukkah, Hidle Ale Es Hagefen, you stretch over the sukkah Es Hagefen, the vines. So these are, we're going to list three types of vines. This is the last and the gourd, a type of squash, I believe. It's a gourd. It's called Gourd. The Es HaKisum. The Es HaKisum. Kisum is ivy.
Kisus or kisum?
I'm sorry.
Gourd, glasses gourd.
Kisus is the ivy. So three types of vines. V'sikach al gaba. V'sikach al gaba, and you put schach on v'sikach al gaba, and you put schach on top of them. So what happened was you have an open sukkah and you stretch this over and you put schach on top of them. Besula, your sukkah is puzzle.
Are we assuming right now they're still attached? Or they're not?
Yeah, they're still attached, exactly. And we give two exceptions to this. But if your schach, your kosher schach was a majority, if your schach was a majority, or another condition, you cut it. Keshera. Now your sukkah is kosher. You can cut it and your sukkah will become kosher. We'll discuss this at length in the Gemara, this cutting it. Once it's on and cutting it. Right. Zak, a period. Put a period there. And now the Mishnah says, Zak klal. Now, Zak klal doesn't really relate so much to what we said before. This is not an exception to the most of the time you find the word Zak klal. Zak klal, here's a rule. Kol shu makabel tuma. Anything which is makabel tuma. Ve'ein gedulim min haaretz. And it doesn't grow from the ground as any one of these properties. It's makabel tuma.
Meaning either one.
Either one. Right, either one. Either it's not makabel tuma or it doesn't grow from the ground. You cannot cover it, you cannot use it as schach. And anything that's not makabel tuma, v'gidulei min haaretz, and that grows from the ground.
It does grow, and it also
grows, and you need both. You need two things. Now, and it grows from the ground. Then you could cover. Then you could use it as schach. So you need two conditions in order to cover your sukkah. The schach, in order for the schach to be kosher, you need two conditions. One is that it has to grow from the ground, and also has to be. What does it have to be? And it has to be that it's not makabel tumah. So you can have something. Just one point. You can have something that grows from the ground, a piece of wood. But if you fashion it into a spoon, now it's makabel tumah because it's a kli.
What about if it's just a piece of wood?
So there's the big discussion about something called pashute kli eitz. It's a flat piece of wood. It's makabel tumah not. But the other case of something that didn't grow from the ground but it's makabel tumah would be like something that doesn't grow from the ground but that could be makabel tumah would be any sort of kli and any kli, right? I'm sorry, right? Any metal, anything like that, right?
It's fish.
So in order to make schach, in order to use something as schach, it has to go from the ground,
right?
And be makabel.
And not be makabel.
So
the green tea.
Yes, the wording is interesting. How the Mishnah worded the end.
Say what you need.
What you need. You're right. It is discussed what you're saying. The Mishnah could have said in a simpler fashion, a simpler way. Perhaps that. Okay. So the Mishnah has two topics here. Number one is if you're putting schach puzzle over, is there a way to rectify putting schach puzzle on top of your sukkah, stretching something that grows from the ground? It's attached to the ground. On both sides, something that grows from the ground, if it's still attached, it's a puzzle schach. Something that grows from the ground, if it's still attached, we'll see it's puzzle schach. We had this came up before. So you stretch this thing that was tied to your sukkah over the sukkah, and now what you want to do to make it kosher is now there's two ways to rectify it. Either you can cut it, or you can nullify it by having more schach kosher. Says the Hilly Gemara, Yosef Rabbi Yosef Kamed Rav Huna. Rabbi Yosef sat in front of Rav Huna, Yosef, and he was sitting v'ka'amar, and he said over our Mishnah. This is what he says: Oisha katsang shera. Regarding the Mishnah said, Oisha katsang shera, right? Regarding this. V'amar Rav, that's what you say. And he said, regarding this, V'amar Rav said, he's commenting. The Mishnah said if you cut it, it's kosher. V'amar Rav, and Rav says tzarach linaneya. You have to go ahead and move. You have after you cut it tzarach linaneya. You have to move the schach after you cut it. Oh, so I'll discuss this because this is the whole. No, this is the Gemara over here. If you there's a problem. This is where we introduced the problem of tasav leiman asay. Now tasav leiman asay means we make a drasha because it says sukkah is tasa, right? Which means you should make sukkahs. Which means when you finish your work, right? When you make the sukkah, it has to have all the conditions have to be there already, right? You hear this? That's the way to explain it. When you make your sukkah, the conditions have to be there before the sukkah is completed. Meaning, whatever conditions you need to make a kosher sukkah, that has to be there before you finish the sukkah. So you not say you finish the sukkah, but you're missing one condition, that the schach is attached to the ground. That's not good. Because now your sukkah tasa has to be made v'leiman also. Also means that it's made retroactive. So like, I have my sukkah, let me make it kosher retroactively. That's called tasa. You have to make your sukkah kosher, lechatchila. V'leiman also, not mina also means that it was already. I mean, I retroactively make my sukkah kosher. So what happens is,
by if it's connected, by cutting it, you did something that suddenly now it's kosher.
Gewaldig. So Rabbi say, listen to so Rabbi say, what Yehuda is pointing out, listen closely to everybody on video. Rabbi say, listen, is anyone on video? Everybody's here tonight.
Oh, Chaim.
Everybody.
Rabbi say,
Rabbi Yaakov Larder.
did they change the location for the shiur?
I think the other half was somewhere else.
Maybe they split.
They're all by Dobie Loberg's wedding.
Yeah.
So Rabbi say, listen to this. Rabbi say, listen to this. Rabbi say, Rabbi Yehuda said something gewaldig. I said, listen to this, and I want you to hear the rule, because once you hear it's so crystal clear, then the whole sugya flows. We have to have that when your sukkah is completed, all the conditions are there. So Yehuda is asking, maybe cutting it is part of making the sukkah. So my sukkah is not completed. That's going to be a machlekes we're going to see right now. Is the cutting it, you say that the sukkah is made, but it's missing a condition? Or no, the sukkah is not even made yet, because you can still cut it. Our Mishnah, that Rav says that you have to shake it, because Rav holds everything is there. You're missing a condition though. What condition are you missing? That the schach is connected. So your sukkah is made, your sukkah is complete. Gewaldig. Listen to this, Rabbi said. Listen to this lashon. Rav says your sukkah is made, but you have a problem. Your sukkah is complete, but it's chassa. It's missing because the schach is attached. So Rav says, what are you going to do? You have a complete sukkah, and your schach is attached. You have to go ahead and move the schach. So what you're going to do is you're going to stand up and say, you have a big machlekes. If you have to move every piece, you have to move every piece. The shaila is, can you move a few pieces at once? That's a separate shaila. But just you push every piece up. So now you put the schach back on. You remade your sukkah. Says Yosef of Yosef, starting in the Gemara, Kamed Rav Huna, but Yosef, and he sat v'ka'amar, and he said, Oisha katzak geshera, regarding that which we said in this, that we said this in the Mishnah regarding this. V'amar Rav said, tzarich lenaneya, you still have to move it. Have to move every piece. Okay, so Rabbi Yosef said it over in the name of Rav. Amalei Rav Huna. Rav Huna responded. Rav Huna was there. He was said in his presence. Hashmuel Amra. Shmuel said it. He told Rabbi Yosef that wasn't Rav. That was Shmuel. At this point, Adrinu Rabbi Yosef la'apei. Rabbi Yosef turned his face away. Rabbi Yosef turned his face away. He was annoyed or in anger. Rashi says he was upset that Shmuel made this comment. Right? So he turned his face away. V'amar lei, and he told Rav Huna. He turned away in anger. He told Rav Huna, Atu mi kamina loch. Did I tell you the loy amra Shmuel? The Shmuel did not say it. Put a comma. Atu mi kamina. Did I tell you? The loy amra Shmuel. The Shmuel didn't say it. Put a comma. Amra Rav. V'amra Shmuel. Just because I was saying it over the name of Rav, it wasn't an exclusion of Shmuel, right? So Amar Lei. Okay. So now Rav Huna responded. Amar Lei, Rav Huna told Rabbi Yosef. Amar Lei, Rav Huna told Rabbi Yosef. Amar Lei, Rav Huna told Rabbi Yosef. I hear what you're saying, but Hachi Kamin Allah. This is what I was saying. No. I knew what I was telling you. You said it over the name of Rav. The Shmuel Amra, Shmuel said it V'loi Rav, and not Rav. Shmuel was the one who says, what, again, let's keep in mind, Shmuel was the one who says that you have to shake the schach to make it kosher. Not Rav. Why? You ready for this? 6-7 lines into the Gemara.
Wait, can you say the Amar Lei Rav Huna?
Amar Lei Rav Huna told Rabbi Yosef, Hachi Kamin Allah. This is what I was telling you. The Shmuel Amra, that only Shmuel said it. Don't get upset at me. I know what I'm saying. The Shmuel Amra, Shmuel said it V'loi Rav and not Rav. Why? The Rav Achshurei Machsher. Rav validates the schach. Ready for this? Right on the side. Rav validates it by cutting alone without moving it. Rav validates it by cutting it without shaking it after, without moving it after. So mamish, not like you're saying, Shmuel, you said in the name of Rav, they have to move it. No. Rav holds the other way. Rav holds, again, Rav Achshur, Rav Machsher. Rav validates cutting the schach, cutting the branches without moving it.
The cutting is the task.
Exactly. We're discussing a sukkah where you stretch the vines over the sukkah and then you're going to cut it. So we're saying right now, the Rav holds that you could cut it and you don't have to move it afterwards. There's a problem in your schach that when your sukkah is completed, whenever you have a complete sukkah, all the conditions to make it kosher have to be there. If you have something that's Tassim, that's what we're discussing. Tassim means it has to be made, has to be into a sukkah, not retroactively. So right now we move a Gemara that Rav Huna told Rav Yosef. This is what I was telling you. You'll get the conversation right after. The Shmuel was the one who said that you have to move it. V'loi Rav and not Rav. The Rav Achshuri Machsher. Rav validates the sukkah. We said on the side, Rav validates cutting the branches without moving it after. You know why? Because Rav holds that cutting the branches is a part of making your sukkah. It's not a condition. That's your sukkah is not called the sukkah if the branches aren't cut. Exactly. So Rav holds that you could go ahead and cut it because we don't look at it like your sukkah is complete yet. Oh, and we're going to find, Rabbi said, we find a similar idea, very similar idea to this. Kihot Rav Amram Chasida. Like Rav Amram Chasida, look what happened here. Rama Techilta, he placed the tchelis, which means the tzitzis, the presuma in the talis, the inshe beise. He put it in the talis of the people in his house members.
What's Rami?
Rami, he's placed techilta, the tzitzis, the presuma, in the talis, the inshe beise, his family members. And 1 second, before I go on, it's funny, I had strings at home. I had a mind to bring them in. I didn't bring them in.
So there's pictures.
We actually have pictures here. So I want to just tell you exactly what happens here.
He was tying the string.
On your tzitza strings, what happens is that what you're supposed to do is you take 4 strings and you put it into your tzitzis. Okay. You take 4 strings, put it in your tzitzis, and then so we basically take 4 strings, you double it over. So then you have 8 strings dangling from your tzitzis, correct? What happens, Rabbi, so you see this? I want to show you, look. You take 4 strings and you put it into the hole. And you take 4 strings, put it in the hole, and then you have 8 strings dangling. What happens is then you tie, you take 4 and 4, and you make 1 knot and 1 knot until you do go through the whole process. You just one more step. You have to wind it, but basically you need to have 4 separate strings, and you have 8 dangling strings, and then you tie it and you do all the whole process, and then you have your tzitzis. What happens is that we're going to find in this story over here, Rav Am Chasida, he took 1 string, a really long string, he doubled it over, he folded it over till you had this. Now the problem is, Rabbi Say, you didn't do any cutting yet, so you don't have to do any cutting. The bottom of connected. You're going to have connected strings in the bottom. Nothing was cut. So he has dangling strings. He did everything. What happened was he put the strings in, he tied it, and now he's left with this, but the problem was it wasn't snipped at the bottom. So he doesn't have 8 strings.
Question is if it's
Yeah,
kosher
right?
tzitzis, if
So what
it's
happens
not,
is, you know what he wants to do now? He wants to go ahead and just snip the bottom. So the tzitzis was made. Everything was made. Once you tie it, Rabbi Isai, you have to have 8 strings before you tie it. You need to have 8 strings and then tie it. What he did was he put the tzitzis in, he did one long string, put the tzitzis in, and then afterwards, look what happened.
I want to know how he made the knots in that.
So it's very hard to do that because
if
he
it's a
took
very
you have
long
to-
string, then
and yeah, and he just
How do you tie a knot if it's looped? You can't.
it's
separate
looped.
your
So
thing.
no, he just took both
It's an even
sides,
knot
held
as
both
well.
sides, and just tied it like this. Yeah. So what happened was, look over here. So Rama Techot ala Parzuma de Inche Beisei. But I say just to point out something, a big discussion that comes up over here. Rashi points out that this was the
Wife.
talis Ishtai.
Right.
His wife's talis. This is the whole sugya on woman chayiv and tzitzis.
Rashi's
Rashi's masculine
daughters.
to
Rashi's
Yeah,
daughters.
yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Never. I was in the store.
It's a legend.
I was in Target the other day. So
I don't know if it's true, but it's-
Yarmulke and tzitzis.
A what?
Yeah,
Maybe it was a guy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how to know the woman.
Rama Techot ala Parzuma de Inche Beisei. So Rabbi say this is the sugya. Rama Techilta, he put tzitzis in the bezuma the Inche Beisei. He put tzitzis into the talus of his wife, into the talus of his house members. Tula'on, look at this. You have to have all these words in. Tula'on, he hung them and tied them. Tula'on really means to hang it, but you have to have Tula'on, he hung and tied them. Yeah, so far so good. Tula'on, he hung them and tied them. And he didn't cut the tips of the tzitzis. Period. That's the story. So he took one long string, stuck it through, and now he had looped ends. He didn't have 8 strings. He tied it, and now he has looped ends, and then he wanted to snip it on the bottom. So what happened over here? So right. Asa l'kamei Rav Chia. He came from Rav Chia Bar Ashi to inquire, right? To inquire about, if there's a way to rectify this. Amar lei. So Rav Chia Bar Ashi told him, Hachi Amar Rav. This is what Rav says. Mifaskan. Just snip it, cut it. Ve'en kasherin. And then your tzitzis are kosher. Alba. We see from here that according to Rav, add that in because we want to show that Rav holds Alma. We see from here, according to Rav, Psikasan, right? That the cutting Zui Asiyasan. That is part of the making of the tzitzis. That's part of the making of the tzitzis. That's not just a condition. It's not tzitzis yet. So Rav holds, you can do everything first and then cut it because it's not yet tzitzis. Hachanami, so to here, Rav holds kitzisasan. Rav is of the opinion kitzisasan that cutting of the branches even after it's on top of the sukkah, zui asiyasan, that is making the sukkah. That's part of making the sukkah, and your sukkah is going to be kosher. So not like Rabbi Yosef started off saying that right, and you don't have to shake it. That you don't have to shake it. Rav Huna was saying Rav holds that all you have to do is cut it. Cut it is a chelik of making it. That's how you make the sukkah. You put the sak on, you cut it. Shmuel holds no. Shmuel holds you have to shake it. Because the sukkah is a sukkah already, and now you're retroactively going to make it kosher by cutting it. Shmuel is the opinion you have to go ahead and shake the schach. Okay, Gavaldik. Rabbi said, let's hop on a little bit more of the sugya. V'savar Shmuel. What? V'savar Shmuel. What do you think? We stop now? It's 9:10. Should we stop now? Meir, what do you think?
Teach it to vote. The suit.
Should we stop now?
Where is it? How far will we go? It's out whatever the.
No, it's hold on.
You can do it to the next stat. It's 5-1.
Yeah, top of it off.
Okay, we're gonna push a little bit. Rabbi say. Okay, let's go. V'savar Shmuel. Does Shmuel really hold loy amina that we don't say Sikasan, Zuyasiyasan. Do we say Savar Shmuel? Does Shmuel really hold that we don't say that cutting it is part of making it? V'hatani Shmuel, Mishum Reb Chia. You put a comma after that. I'm sorry, before Vaha. V'hatani Shmuel, Mishum Reb Chia. Shmuel said the name of Reb Chia. Hitel l'shnei kronos v'vas achas. You placed, Rabbi, you know what you did over here in this thing? You took two corners of tzitzis and you put the strings in. You put strings into two corners of a tzitzis, right? Look what happened over here.
The same string.
The same string, right? And you went right across. So you lined up. Then you want to make tzitzis. You have tzitzis laid out on the table. So you figure, let me do two at once. So you stick all the string through here. Look what happened over here. And this is all this is information. After that, you cut off the snip. You snip the edge, the tips. Kisherin. 1 second.
In the middle.
The middle. You basically you mean to cut the middle. If you want a picture, look in the back on page Yud Tezayin. Look at Tezayin. On picture Kuf Chav Hey. You see Kuf Chav Hey? So go through Kuf Chav Hey, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, and Daled. So you look what you did. You put it through two corners. We don't yet know what you did. The Gemara, hold your hand there and let's jump back to Gemara. The Gemara says that first you put it and then you cut it. We're not sure what happened in between. Did you tie it between? If you tied it, Rabbi Sai, that's going to be a problem. So my lav, the Gemara says, my lav, shekosher, that first you tie the tzitzis, v'achakach pasak, and only afterwards you cut it, right? Right? And you must say that, and now you must say that cutting it is part of making the tzitzis. Yehuda, you hear what's going on, Yehuda?
Yeah.
So my love, are we not talking about shekosher that you tied the tzitzis after you put it through? You made all the knots. The achakach paisak, and only afterwards you snipped it, and it's still kosher. You can write on the side, and it's still kosher. Because cutting it is part of the process.
Only according to that.
Oh, no, this is Shmuel. Because we're now questioning, does Shmuel not hold that cutting it is good? Right? That's where we're bothered.
What are you saying before? Now you must say cutting is...
And now you must say that cutting is part of the... And now that it's kosher, you must say that cutting is part of making of the tzitzis. So you didn't yet finish the tzitzis until you cut it. Question mark. So you see that Shmuel, right? So even Shmuel holds cutting is part of the tzitzis. Rabbi said, which really questions, Shmuel obviously doesn't hold of Tasav Lemon also. He doesn't have a problem with that. The Gemara says, no. Loi. No. Kama. Shapaisek. First you cut it. Basically you just had strings going through you threaded the strings through the holes and then you cut it. Shapaisek v'achachach kaisher. Period. So first you cut it and then you tied it, which is really a process of making tzitzis. That's how you make tzitzis. Nothing wrong. Is that clear, everybody? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Crystal clear? Ellie, crystal clear? Yehuda, is it clear?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So 1 minute. Well, let me finish up and then we're going to chazan. The Gemara says, wait. Paisek, the Gemara asks, Paisek, v'achach kosher, if you cut it and only afterwards you tied it, my lememra. What's the chiddush? Of course it's kosher. You cut strings and now you made the ties, and now you made the tzitzis. Pashet Rabbi Sai, Ma'al the Tema. Oops. Ma'al the Tema. You might think, V'inan Kanaf B'shas Psil. You need the corner to be made at the time of the threading. Right? You need to have one corner at the time of the threading. You need knaf. You need to have one corner. I mean, you can only thread one corner at a time. Being in a knaf, you need one corner. B'shas b'sil at the time when you're threading, when you put it through, meaning you have to put the tzitzis through one corner only, as opposed to sticking it through two. You might think already from that process, a separate halacha, exactly. Being a knaf, you need one corner b'shas b'sil when you're threading it. Veleka and you don't have that. Kama. Kamash malon. Then no, you could thread through two corners as long as you cut it right after. So you have the kamash malon clear. Rabbi said, could I just write it in kamash malon?
So you didn't tie it.
You didn't tie it. You could thread it through two corners and then cut and then tie. You hear that?
So what's the Kamash Malon?
Kamash malon that you're allowed to put the shrinks through two corners so long as you cut it before you start tying it.
But of course.